You felt this before. A warning label, a locked door, a message that says, "Don't open this." And in that exact moment, you want to know what's inside more than you wanted to know anything else all day. That pull isn't weakness. It's one of the oldest, most reliable patterns in the human mind. And it's so old, the Greeks gave it to the very first woman. We assume curiosity is just wanting to learn, that it's harmless, even admirable, the thing that drives discovery, science, progress. But there's a specific version of curiosity that has nothing to do with learning. It's not about wanting to know something useful. It's about not being able to tolerate the feeling of not knowing, even when you already know the answer will hurt you. This is the myth of Pandora, the first woman, according to the Greeks, sent down to earth with a single gift, a sealed jar and one instruction: never open it. She wasn't told it was empty. She wasn't told it was a test she could safely ignore. She was told plainly that whatever was inside was not meant for her or for anyone. The instruction was the entire content of the warning. No explanation, no curiosity-satisfying detail, just a door and a sign that said, "Stay out." For a while, she didn't touch it. But the jar didn't need to do anything to work on her. It just needed to sit there, sealed, unexplained. Every day she didn't open it, the not knowing grew heavier than the warning. The instruction that was supposed to protect her from the contents started to feel like the only obstacle between her and an answer she was now certain she needed. It wasn't that she stopped believing the warning was real. It was that the discomfort of not knowing eventually outweighed her fear of what knowing might cost. She opened it. What escaped wasn't an answer. It was every plague, sorrow, and suffering the gods had sealed away from the world, released in a single moment, impossible to take back. By the time she understood what she'd done, the lid was useless. The only thing left in the jar, in most versions of the myth, was hope. And even that stayed trapped at the bottom, as if it arrived one moment too late to matter. So why does a warning sometimes make people want the forbidden thing more instead of less? Here's what's actually happening. Not knowing something creates a real physical discomfort. Your mind treats an unanswered question almost like an open wound. A clear warning doesn't close that wound, it actually points right at it, which quietly makes the discomfort louder instead of quieter. With that discomfort growing, the warning itself starts to feel less like protection and more like the only thing standing between you and relief. And once it feels that way, you don't notice you've stopped weighing the actual danger until you're already past the point of stopping. This is the Pandora pattern, and it runs the same way every time. Not knowing something creates real discomfort. A warning doesn't erase that discomfort, it points right at it, making the not knowing louder. With that discomfort growing, the warning starts to feel like the obstacle instead of the protection. And once it feels that way, you don't notice you've stopped weighing the danger until you've already opened what you were told not to. Here's the whole pattern in one line. The discomfort of not knowing grows faster than your fear of what you'll find out. Pandora isn't a metaphor for this, she's the first version of it. Every warning label that backfires, every door that becomes more interesting the moment it's locked, runs on the exact same pattern. You don't need a myth to see this pattern. It shows up anywhere a warning makes the forbidden thing feel more urgent instead of less. A person scrolls past a graphic content warning online, not because they want to see something disturbing, but because the warning itself made not knowing unbearable. A team member sits on a serious concern about a project, watching a closed door marked "Don't raise this now," until the discomfort of staying silent becomes worse than the fear of speaking up, but often only after it's too late to fix what's already gone wrong. In both cases, the structure is identical to the myth. The warning didn't fail because people are reckless. It failed because not knowing is its own kind of pain. Two real examples make this easy to see. A recent study tracking young adults found that nearly 90% of them clicked past content warnings on social media, not because they felt emotionally prepared, but because curiosity about what was being hidden from them was stronger than the warning itself. Researchers now call this the forbidden fruit effect. The warning becomes part of the pull, not a defense against it. Decades earlier, investigators reviewing NASA's space shuttle disasters found something just as unsettling inside the organization itself. Engineers who raised serious safety concerns before both the Challenger and Columbia disasters often found that those warnings simply weren't welcomed upward. The problem wasn't a lack of warnings. It was a culture where the discomfort of raising a hard question was treated as more disruptive than the risk the question was actually pointing at. Here's the paradox underneath this. The same curiosity that drives every discovery worth making is the same curiosity that can't tell the difference between a question worth answering and one that was sealed shut for a reason. You can't remove the pull toward the unknown without also removing the thing that makes people explore, build, and ask why in the first place. But there is one thing that decides whether this happens to you, whether you ever ask what the cost of knowing actually is, before the discomfort of not knowing makes that question disappear. Pandora was given a warning with no explanation, and the lack of explanation is exactly what made the discomfort unbearable. The engineers at NASA had real explanations and were still overridden by people whose discomfort with delay outweighed their fear of disaster. Knowing the warning is real has never been enough on its own. What stops the pattern is asking the cost question before the pull takes over completely. In the myth, hope stays in the jar, the one thing that might have helped, arriving a moment too late to undo what curiosity had already released. This is Mnemarch. We look at the patterns behind human behavior, the same mistakes, repeating whether the costume is a myth, a market, or a memory. Subscribe if this is the kind of thing you think about. There's another one next week.